Hi guys, James at Rampant Lion Reviews again for you today with another beer review. For this one, we are going to head over to America once again, and we're going to return to a brewery that's featured on the channel a couple of times before. Now, these guys are a very well respected and very well established American craft brewery, potentially one of the best known names in the world when it comes to American craft beer, but I haven't tried anything from these guys in quite a wee while actually, and that's really just because I haven't seen anything new from them that I haven't had before for quite a wee while. So this beer was quite a random find here in Hong Kong. It's a style that I have had from this brewery before, one that I know they can do very, very well, but it does have a little bit of a twist to it that I haven't had too often within this style category, and definitely not from this brewery either. So needless to say, I'm really curious to see what this beer is going to have in store for us. Hopefully it's another good beer. Hopefully it makes for an interesting review, and as always, I hope that you guys watching enjoy my take on this one as well. So yeah, for this review then, we're going to head over to the US, like I said. We're going to go to the state of Colorado and a little place called Lyons, which is kind of to the north of Boulder and the kind of northwest-ish of Denver in Colorado. But yeah, that means that we're going to have a look at another beer from the wonderful Oskar Blues Brewery. This one is interesting because it doesn't actually have a kind of proper name. This one is just called BA22 Volume 10. It comes in at 14% ABV. This one is an Imperial Stout, and it's been aged in Applejack brandy barrels. So yeah, this is yet another beer that I picked up from the wonderful Gur Beer in Tsim Sha Tsui in Kowloon here in Hong Kong. And yeah, it's the first new thing I've seen from Oskar Blues in quite a wee while. I've seen 10 Fiddy quite often, but obviously I've had that and quite a few different versions of it. You do see Dale's Pale Ale and Double Dales around quite a lot. But yeah, this is the first new thing that I've seen from these guys in quite a wee while. So I thought, you know, we have to have a little look at this. And it wasn't, it was actually quite cheap in comparison with some other things as well, which I was really surprised about. So yeah, hopefully we get some more Oskar Blues stuff over here in the next wee while that's a little bit different. But yeah, a brandy barrel-aged Imperial Stout from the legendary Oskar Blues Brewery of Lyons, Colorado over in the US. So yeah, let's just crack on and see what this beer is going to have in store for us. Very curious about this one. So, as always with my reviews then, I'll tell you a little bit about the brewery before we taste the beer. If you want to get straight to the tasting though, just fast forward. All the usual links can be found in the video description below. That's the brewery website, the link to my other reviews that I've done from Oskar Blues Brewery before, and we will no doubt add more to that list at some point in the near future. But there's all the usual social media down there. If you want to see more reviews, do please consider subscribing to the channel. The support that you give is massively appreciated, and remember you can go into the channel homepage and search for beer using the geography tagging system. So just go in there, use the little search bar, put in your hometown, state, county, province, whatever you like. If I've reviewed beers from the area that you search for, they will pop up. Failing that though, you can check out the playlist of beers from different countries. You'll find this one in the American playlist along with a number of other things that's being added to whenever I get the opportunity, but quite regularly because we do get a good selection of American stuff here in Hong Kong, which I'm very happy about. But do make sure you check out the playlist of beers from other countries as well, because there are some very interesting things on the channel these days. But yeah, let's go on to my brewery notes then, and I'll tell you a wee bit about Oskar Blues Brewery once again then. So, the history of the Oskar Blues Brewery traces its roots back to a restaurant that was founded by Dick Dale Katekis in Lyons in Colorado, which, like I said, is a bit to the north of Boulder, back in 1997. But 2 years after the foundation, they started brewing beer in the basement of the restaurant. But Dale had originally studied finance and worked in the industry, but he'd always been very curious about craft beer because the industry was starting to kind of blossom in Colorado. But the brewery are credited by some as having been the first craft brewery in the US to can their beers, and this came with the release of the Dale's Pale Ale back in 2002. But they're the largest craft brewery by volume in the US to do so, and they're also the second largest craft brewery by volume in Colorado after New Belgium, of course. But over the following years after their foundation, They continued to grow their sales and spread the word about their beer, and then in 2008 they moved into a larger production facility in Longmont in Colorado. But in 2009 the brewery founded the Burning Can event, which brought together all the different craft brewers, or as many as they could, that were canning their beers, and this proved to be very successful, and it was repeated over the following years. But in 2013 they expanded again and opened a satellite brewery in Brevard in North Carolina, and this facility can brew between 40,000 and 85,000 US barrels of beer per year, and this has since been expanded as well. The original Oskar Blues Bar and Grill is still open in Lyons, and it has 45 different beers on tap, and they've got another new brewery in Austin in Texas, and in total, from what I can gather, they're producing around 150,000 US barrels of beer per year, which translates to around 175,000 hectolitres of beer per year. But since 2015, this brewery has been part of the Canarchy umbrella company, which composes Oskar Blues, Cigar City from Florida, who are also very well known, Squatters, Wasatch, Deep Ellum and Perrin Brewing, and these guys have really been promoting canned craft beer everywhere across the world. But then in early 2022, Dale Katekis sold his share of the company to Monster, the energy drink company. So yeah, the Oskar Blues Brewery is now owned by Monster. But as of September 2024, when I'm filming this review for you, these guys have produced 1,140 different kinds of beer according to Untappd, and that number will no doubt continue to increase as time goes on. But yeah, that is everything I can really tell you about Oskar Blues Brewery for the moment. If you want to learn more about these guys, you can check out the brewery website, you can follow them on Facebook and Instagram to keep up to date with all the latest goings on, and you can check out the Rate Beer, Untappd and Beer Advocate pages to learn a little bit more about all the different beers that these guys have done. So yeah, let's go on and have a little look at this beer. So like I said to you at the start of the video, this one comes in at 14% ABV. The name of this is simply BA22 volume 10, so I'm guessing that this one is part of a series of barrel aged beers that they've done. These guys are producing quite a big volume, of course, so yeah, lots of different stuff coming out from these guys. But plain gold top on the can there, which is quite nice, and you can see it kind of reminds me of some of the Native American art. This one a little bit with the kind of headgear and stuff on it. Actually, it looks really, really nice, this one. I don't know if that is meant to be grapes or some other kind of berry there. But this can, I think, is it 355 milliliters? Yeah, 12 American fluid ounces. I never understand the fluid ounce system. Americans need to learn how to use the metric system for measurement, because it makes much more sense based on water. I always say that in my American reviews. But yeah, like I said, this one comes in at 14% ABV, and it's an Imperial Stout aged in Applejack brandy barrels and brandy barrels, as they're putting it here. But yeah, there you can see part of the Oskar Blues Barrel Aged series of 2022. So I guess this one might have been from the last year that Dale Katekis was still involved in the company, actually. So that's kind of cool. But yeah, let's get this guy out into the glass then and see what it's all about. If memory serves me correctly, I think I paid about 80 Hong Kong dollars for this beer, which is like £8 sterling, €9, $10 American. And for what it is, I think that's pretty damn good value, actually. Especially when you consider it's an American import, it's barrel aged, and it's heavy in alcohol. So I was quite happy with that. In all honesty, I thought that was a pretty good deal. So there we go. We've got the guy out and into the glass. So I lost a little bit over the side there, but that is going to happen sometimes. But yeah, you can see that when we poured this beer, it came out with about a quarter finger of a frothy, I would have said quite dark tan head, but that's faded away to be kind of pretty much nothing at the moment. You've just got a very thin kind of foamy ring around the edge of the glass. I'm not sure. I think, yeah, you guys can see it on the camera there. So you've got that lovely kind of foam, dark tan colour around the edge of the beer there. But you can see this one has poured this lovely dark ebony rosewood, and then it's poured this lovely dark ebony rosewood colour, which is kind of what you'd expect from the Imperial Stout. So remember, the colour of your beer can depend on a few things. One, the type of malts that you use. This goes a long way to determining your EBC rating. Two, length of your wort boil is going to play a role, because the longer you boil the wort, the more the sugar is caramelised, and thus you get a darker coloured beer. But any barrel aging that you do or adjuncts you put into the beer will affect its colour as well. But when it comes to black beers like Imperial Stouts and Porters and things, it's very, very difficult to actually affect the colour of these with adjuncts and barrel aging and so on. I've only ever seen it done once, and that was Puhasta in Estonia, when they put beets in the beer and the thing had this kind of purple tinge to it, which was just crazy. But when it comes to the Imperial Stout as a style, there's a few ways you can play with this. You can do barrel aging, of course, which is where you're going to get all these infused flavours, but you're going to sacrifice a little bit of the mouthfeel. You can do a double mash, which is going to give you a big, thick, sticky mouthfeel. You can do do a longer wort boil, which is going to give you a more kind of like dry, leathery, sort of brown, sugary character to the beer. But then you can also do a little bit of adjunct addition and things like that to them as well, which is always kind of fun to play with. But yeah, these are the main ways that you can play with an Imperial Stout. So I'm quite curious to analyse this one and see exactly what they've done here. But there's not too much in the way of visible carbonation with this one. You can see there's not much head on it, but at 14%, you would expect that unless the beer has a significant bit of wheat in it, which I'm guessing this one maybe doesn't. But yeah, all in all, I think we can't really say too much more about the appearance of this beer. So yeah, it's pretty much what you would expect from the Imperial Stout style category. So let's go on and actually have a little look at the aroma of this then. I'm very curious about this, like I said, so let's do it. Oh, that smells lovely. This beer is going to be a monster, you can just tell that. It's actually been a wee, at the time of filming, it's actually been a good wee while since I've had an Imperial Stout. I've got a couple sitting there that I need to work my way through actually. So yeah, I had another sort of stockpile of these for a wee while as well that I worked my way through, and you know, you just go through phases where you fancy them and sometimes you don't. But this is one that I've been kind of eyeing up for a wee while, and I need to get through some of these stouts and try them and things. But this one, I have to say, this smells absolutely lovely. Thick as fuck, I think, is a good way to describe this one. But yeah, you can smell the brandy barrel in this, and of course brandy is a thing that I'm not overly familiar with, of course. If I remember right, it's like some kind of, you get apple brandies and stuff like this. They're really interesting. I've only ever tried them once or twice, but the brandy barrel aged things that you get are always really, really good. Port barrel aged stuff and cognac barrel aged as well. The fruity infusions you get out of these are great. But what you'll notice about this stout straight away is that it smells really kind of thick, and like in some ways it's got like the old school RIS type qualities to it, but the brandy barrel's just like smoothing it out and things. It's really, really interesting. So yeah, let's kind of break this down and just describe it a wee bit more in depth. So the backbone of this beer, you've got the kind of American oak in there. As I've often said, American oak is a little bit smoother than European oak. In a sense, it's different species of tree, of course, but you can smell that lovely smooth American oak in there. It's got a wee bit of vanilla to it as well, and you can smell the big apple brandy quality sitting on top of that, the lovely big oily apple brandy kind of notes in there. So yeah, the way that this one goes together in that sense is really, really nice. On top of that though, you start to actually get the the stout side of the beer. So for me, you can smell a little bit of that kind of roasty, toasty, well-fired bread crust, but I would say that's kind of a little bit minimal and not overly harsh actually. But yeah, so you've got that roasty, toasty bread crust in there, but then on top of that, you start to get more of like a kind of cake edge to the beer. So like that little bit of stickiness, that little bit of cake that kind of sticks to the baking tray when you do your baking there, that's what you're kind of getting out of this one. But a lot of like chocolatey sponge character coming out of this beer. It's kind of, there's a little bit of rye bread in there too, so definitely rye bread, chocolate cakey kind of sponge. I would maybe go as far as saying that there's a little bit of like English, Scottish Christmas pudding note in this one. My dad used to always get Christmas pudding for his birthday cake mid-February. My mum always used to make him a Christmas pudding because he loved it. I probably get my brown sugary stuff, my brown sugary kind of fetish, if you like, from my dad. You know, he loves those big brown sugary things. So yeah, for me, the brown sugary characters in this are great as well. But yeah, you've got that big sort of Christmas puddingy cake in there, rye bread. It's great. So there's a really nice the cakey side of this beer is quite nice. I almost get a little bit of like coconut or something out of it as well. But within the cakey and brown bready characters, there's a really lovely, there's a really lovely sort of brown bready and nutty character in there. So yeah, lots of kind of, I don't know if it's hazelnut or pecans or what it is, but there's a big nutty character coming out of this beer as well. Particularly the more that you smell of it, you get more of the dryness in there. But on top of that, you start to get the chocolate and the brown sugar. So for me, the chocolatey side of this beer, it's got a little bit of that cocoa nibby dryness to it, but some kind of milky character as well. So it's maybe like a 40-50% cocoa chocolate character coming out of this one, which I think is great. But then on top of that, you start to get the brown sugar, so you can feel there's a sort of dry, leathery brown sugary character to this one, and usually that's an indicator of a longer wort boil. I've got a feeling that this one is maybe quite long wort boil and also double mash, because you can feel that you can smell that it's like so sticky and oily and stuff, and it's also got that leathery character in there. So I think double mash, longer wort boil, that's definitely in there. Nice little bit of McVitie's digestive biscuit of course as well, but yeah, leathery brown sugars, treacle molasses for sure, sweeter caramel, bit of like honeycomb or something like that, and of course you've got all the brown sugars from the kind of brandy underneath as well, and the sort of appley character from the brandy as well. Yeah, aroma wise, this is awesome. This is pretty damn good. The yeasty character at the back of the nose is more kind of rye bready and oily and brown bready for sure, but yeah, the way that it's the way that it all kind of pieces together, I think, is really nice. So yeah, interesting stuff. I don't know if we can say too much more about the yeasty and malty side of the beer and the barrel. In terms of hoppy character, of course, the Imperial Stout is not the most hop forward style of beer, and this thing is barrel aged. It has been barrel aged, and then by the looks of it, it was released in 2022 as well. So a lot of the hoppy character would have dropped out regardless. But yeah, you've got that little bit of earthiness in there, a little bit of woody character as well, and then a little bit of earthiness, a little bit of woody character, some nice floral notes, a nice little bit of grassiness in there as well, and yeah, the way that it all pieces together, I think, is really nice. Yeah, so nice floral, nice grassy notes in there. But I don't know if there's too much else to say about the hoppy side of things. So yeah, on the fruity side of the beer, then obviously you get the kind of fruity side of the brandy and the barrel sitting in the base there. But yeah, how would you say, the fruity side of the beer for me, there's lots of big oily plums in there, and of course underneath that you get prunes and you get a bit of the dates, the kind of drier fruits. There's all of that kind of going on. Figs definitely, black currants, blackberries, and then you've got that kind of phenolic-y type quality to it as well, that sort of cough syrupy, medicinally type thing. These are all things you expect of this particular style of beer though. but I think this one is really, really nicely done, so it gets a big thumbs up from me. Yeah, I think that's everything we really need to say about the aroma of this one. It's really nice and inviting, but I think it's about time that we have a taste of this beer and just see what it's all about. So as I always say, take a little bit of time to enjoy the aroma of the beer before you get stuck into it, but I think it is about time that we try this one and see what it's all about. So yeah, this is the BA 22 Volume 10, an Imperial, a barrel-aged, brandy barrel-aged Imperial Stout at 14% ABV from the wonderful Oskar Brewery, originally from Lyons in Colorado over in the US. Let's get stuck into this one. Slàinte, skål, and cheers. Ooh, that's nice. I have to admit, it is a little bit more kind of roasty and toasty and things, a bit more RIS leaning than I was expecting it to be. I don't know why, just from the aroma, I thought this was going to be more like, not quite an Imperial milk stout, but I thought it was going to really be, the stout itself was going to be more on the kind of sweeter end of the spectrum. But yeah, this one really is very, very nice in that regard. It is. I've missed the old school RISs. There's too many of these kind of pastry stouts and things out there these days. But yeah, this one really is quite, yeah, it really is just quite straight up in that sense. It's very nice. Old school RIS with the brandy barrels just giving you that bit more depth, and you can certainly feel some of the alcohol warmth down here. But at 14% ABV, you're going to get that, in honesty. Yeah, where do we start with this one then? It really is nice, and I think the more that you drink of this, the more your palate's going to adjust to it. But yeah, middle third of the palate then. The backbone of the beer, you've got that lovely, smooth American oaky backbone in there, so you can get that nice kind of brandy barrel in there. As you move further forward on that middle 30 palate, and we're still talking about the barrel layer, you get that nice little bit of vanilla out of it, which I think is great. Yeah, the way that goes together is really, really nice. So nice smooth American oak in there, that nice kind of vanilla type quality, and then yeah, you've got that oily kind of apple brandy type character just sitting on top of it, and it's it really is nice how that goes together. I love that about this one. The apple, the mix of the apple brandy, it's just this really oily thing. I always loved apple flavour when I was a little boy and stuff. And in Sweden, of course, you've got apple mousse, which is one of my favourite things. So yeah, you just get all of that mixed on top of this beer, or mixed on top of the barrel there, which is really nice. So that lovely big oily, spirity apple kind of note sitting on top of the woody barrel type characters is great. So yeah, that's lovely. On top of the kind of brandy layer, you start to get the actual malty components of the beer. So you can feel there's a nice little bit of there's a nice little bit of a slightly roasty, toasty. Yeah, you get a wee bit of that kind of roasty, toasty, well-fired bread crusty sort of thing, but I don't know if that's the most accurate descriptor. It maybe is better to say that it's maybe better to say that maybe better to say that you have a little bit of a more kind of like that bit of the cake that sticks to the bacon tray. It's maybe more like that. That's maybe the backbone of your beer. But then above that, you get the kind of rye bready character. You can feel that more grainy rye bready sort of thing. And then above that, you get what might be a little bit of a kind of slightly drier chocolate brownie. And then above that, you're getting a more kind of chocolate sponge cakey type quality to the beer. In all of those layers, there's a little element of nuttiness in there, but it's also quite a sort of chocolatey, kind of spongy character that's coming out of them. So yeah. So yeah, for me, the above the kind of spongy layer, above the sort of spongy layer, you start to get the actual chocolate. So above that, you have above that, you've got the chocolatey layer. So at the back of that, the middle third of your palate, you can feel the chocolate. You've got the sort of chocolatey layer there. So remember, sweeter flavours come out further forward, more dry and bitter flavours come out further back. So on top of the kind of bread layer, you've got that more kind of high percentage cocoa chocolate there. So I think it's maybe about a 70-ish% cocoa chocolate at the back of that middle third of your palate. Then as you come further forward, you can feel that it sort of mellows out a little bit, and it mellows out a little bit, and you have it mellows out a wee bit, and it gives you more of a it gives you more of like a kind of 50% cocoa chocolate as you come further forward from that. I think it's quite a dark chocolatey layer that you're getting in this one, and it almost feels as if it just has a slightly coconutty type vibe to it, the chocolate as well. But then above that, you start to get the brown sugar, so you can feel the sort of leathery layer of brown sugar in there. So you've got this big circle in the middle of your palate, and there's a more leathery brown sugary character coming out of it. And then in the dead center of your palate, you've got like a big oily treacle molasses sort of thing, and then a sweeter, more oily caramelly note around the edge of that. So yeah, treacle molasses in the dead center of your palate, sweet oily caramel around the edge of it, and then you've got the big leathery brown sugars underneath that. In all honesty, I think that goes together. That does go together very, very nicely. So it gets a big thumbs up from me. I like that about this one. So I think that's everything we can really say about the middle third of the palate, in honesty, and that's the most complex part of the beer. It's actually kind of quite a straightforward Imperial Stout, this one, in some ways, I would say. But yeah, let's go to the back third of your palate then, talk about that. And as I've often said, the back third of your palate will give you very similar flavours to the middle third of your palate, just at different intensities. But yeah, the border region between middle and back third of your palate, you get that little bit of kind of bready build up in there. So in the base, you've got the kind of rye bready sort of layer, then you've got the drier chocolate brownie and the more sort of chocolate spongy layer in there. Then you've got something like an almost toasty, charred, chocolatey character above that. If you go to the back third of the palate, you've got the barrel in the base, of course, and the woody character feels a little bit drier. The apple brandy in there, you get a bit more of the kind of bitiness. You get a little bit more of the kind of bitiness out of the apple brandy. And then you've got a wee bit of like the toasty char kind of bread crusty character. Then you've got the rye bready layer in there. Then above that you get the kind of chocolate brownie type layer, and then the chocolate sponge sitting above that, and then some of the drier more toasty aspects of the chocolate just creep over the top of that, which is quite nice. But yeah, I like that about this one for sure. And above all of that, you do get the yeasty side of the beer coming out. So let's just have a wee look at that yeasty character on the top of the back third of your palate. So yeah, the yeasty side of this one for me, at its core, it's like this sweet, big, oily, rye bready character. Round the edge of that, you have a nice, around the edge of that, you have a really nice kind of like more of a kind of grainy brown bread, and that kind of burnt cakey sort of thing. And then yeah, the very edge of it is like a more charred, it's slightly charred bread crusty character. So yeah, it's like, maybe it's a bit like a kind of Christmas puddingy note in the middle, then a more rye bready character around the edge, and then a toasty bread crusty character around the very, very edge of it. But yeah, the way that that goes together is really nice in this one. But yeah, definitely back third of your palate, the flavour is definitely taller. Then as you move further forward into the middle third of your tongue, it just kind of condenses down and squashes together. So yeah, the way that that goes together is really, really nice in this one. It's a proper old school American Imperial Stout, this one, and yeah, definitely kind of leaning toward that RIS side of things. But I do wonder if this is 1050 in the base, and then it's I wonder if it's 1050 in the base, and then it's just the brandy barrels that have really been added into this, because the American Imperial Stouts, they've just got quite a distinctive mouthfeel compared to other places. But again, that's one of the things that I really enjoy about them. So let's go on to the hoppy side of the beer then. So like I said earlier, the Imperial Stout is not the most hop forward style of beer, and it's also this beer is also about 2 years old, and it's barrel aged, so most of it will have dropped out. You do get some of the kind of hoppy remnants on the edge of your... Pardon me, got a little bit, I'm getting a bit of gas out of this. But yeah, you do get some of the kind of hoppy remnants on the edge of your palate there, but most of the hoppy character has dropped out. In the back corners of the palate, there's a little bit of earthiness there. As you come further forward, there's a wee bit of woodiness, and you can feel that sort of woody, earthy kind of thing spreads a little bit further forward. But there's a little bit more kind of floral aromaticity as you reach the kind of front corners of the palate. Then round the front curve of the tongue, it is a little bit lighter and more grassy, I would say. Yeah, I think the way that that goes together is really, really nice. So let's have a wee look at the front third of your palate then, and just see how it goes together. So the border region between front third and middle third of your palate, again, you get that little bit of bready build up in there. You can feel the kind of rye bread in the base, the sort of chocolate brownie in the middle, and the chocolate sponge on top, and a wee bit of more charred chocolatey character there. But the base of the front third of your palate, yeah, you've got the barrel again, you've got the apple brandy, of course, which is a little bit sweeter on the front third of your palate, the bread crust, the rye bread, the chocolate sponge, and then the more kind of brownie thing, and then a wee bit of a leathery brown sugar. And above that, you get that nice oily bubble where the juicy fruity esters just roll their way out of the beer. So let's have a little look at that just to round off the flavour section of this video. Yeah, the fruity side of this beer is kind of what you'd expect in all honesty. So you get the apple notes from the barrel coming out of this one, but yeah, the apple notes from the barrel are very, very nice. And so the actual like fruity bubble in this beer, there's a lot of like plum in the beginning. If you go to the back of that oily bubble on the front third of your palate, there's a lot of plum in there. Then underneath that you have, yeah, there's a lot of plum, a good little bit of I would say, like, there's a wee bit of prune and a wee bit of date and things like that in there. You do get this sort of underpinning the kind of fruity character of this beer. You've got a wee bit of that sort of phenolic type thing, like the cough syrupy, medicinal type thing, and you can feel that particularly in that border region between front and middle third of your palate there. So yeah, plum, prune, date, and as you move further forward, it's got a little bit more of a kind of figgy character to it as well. Then there's blackcurrant in the front half of that front third of your palate, and then on top of that, there's a little bit more of there's a little bit more of a black berry sort of thing with this one. So yeah, you've got the blackcurrant underneath and the blackberry on top. So yeah, plum, prune, date, fig, blackcurrant and blackberry. I think that describes the fruity composition of this beer quite well. Maybe a little bit of datey character in there as well. Yeah, I think I would stick with that. And of course, you've got all the apple flavours from the brandy pushing their way through too. But all in all, a really interesting beer, this one. Like a proper old school American Imperial Stout, this one. And you can feel the sort of silky notes pushing their way out of this one too, that come from the fact that the beer is a little bit older. But yeah, this one goes together really nicely, and it gets a big thumbs up from me. So yeah, I think we can leave it at that for the flavour section of this video. Let's round off with a wee look at the mouthfeel. So for me, this is definitely a full-bodied beer. The carbonation is very, very smooth on this one. And I would say that this beer, it has a sort of silky mouthfeel to it, but it's quite dry into the aftertaste as well. IBU wise, it's a little bit hard to place. I mean, what is it going to be, 70 or 80 IBUs? Because you do have some of that roasty toasty character out of it, and it's got a wee bit of bite from the barrel as well, and the fact that it's 14% ABV. So yeah, there is a wee bit of a bite to this one. But the barrel, like we said, has a bit of dryness to it, a bit of oily sweetness on top. The backbone of the beer is roasty and toasty. It's smoother in the middle, and a little bit like a dry sweetness on top there as well. The yeasty character in the beer is a little bit drier. The fruity side of things is a little bit more oily. And yeah, there's maybe just a little remnant of hoppy bitterness in there too. So I think maybe like, yeah, 60 or 70 IBUs is a good place to describe this one too. But in all honesty, it's a really interesting beer, this one. It's not quite what I expected. I thought this was going to be like a really oily, thick, sweet Imperial Stout, but it's actually more like a kind of old school American RIS, just with a wee bit of brandy barrel added to it. So I've got a feeling this is like a kind of variant of 1050 with a bit of brandy barrel added to it, and there's nothing wrong with that because 1050 is great. So yeah, this is worth trying if you come across it actually, and I just wanted to try something new from Oskar Blues, and they've certainly not disappointed. But yeah, I think we can leave it at that for this one. This was the BA22 Volume 10, a 14% brandy barrel aged Imperial Stout from the wonderful Oskar Blues Brewery in Lyons in Colorado. So yeah, once again, thank you for watching my beer reviews. Until the next time, please like, subscribe, share, all the usual YouTube stuff. Let me know your own thoughts on this beer in the comments section below. Let me know what your favourite beers are from Oskar Blues Brewery as well, and we will no doubt return to these guys again at some point in the near future. But in the meantime, check out my social media, check out their social media. I hope you guys have enjoyed this one, and I'll catch you guys again very, very soon. Slàinte, skål, and cheers. Ciao just now.